Inferno Hell Canto 8 Argument. A signal having been made from the tower, Phlegius, the ferryman of the lake, speedily crosses it, and conveys Virgil and Dante to the other side. On their passage, they meet with Filippo Argenti, whose fury and torment are described. They then arrive at the city of Dis, the entrance whereto is denied, and the portals closed against them by many demons. My theme pursuing, I relate, that ere we reached the lofty turret's base, our eyes its height ascended, where we marked up hung two crescents, and another saw from far return the signal, so remote, that scarce the eye could catch its beam. I, turning round to the deep source of knowledge, thus inquired, say what this means, and what, that other light in answer said, what agency doth this? There on the filthy waters, he replied, and now what next awaits us mayst thou see, if the marsh-gendered fog conceal it not. Never was arrow from the cord dismissed, that ran its way so nimbly through the air, as a small bark, that through the waves I spied toward us coming, under the sole sway of one that ferried it, who cried aloud, Art thou arrived, fell spirit, Phlegius? Phlegius, this time thou criest in vain, my lord replied, no longer shalt thou have us, but well o'er the slimy pool we pass. As one who hears of some great wrong he hath sustained, whereat inly he pines. So Phlegius inly pined in his fear, sire. My guide, descending, stepped into the skiff, and bade me enter next, close at his side, nor, till my entrance, seemed the vessel freighted. Soon as both embarked, cutting the waves, goes on the ancient prow, more deeply than with others it is wont. While we our course o'er the dead channel held, one drenched in mire before me came, and said, Who art thou, that thus comest ere thine hour? I answered, Though I come, I tarry not. But who art thou, that art become so fell? One, as thou seest, who mourn. He straight replied. To which I thus, in mourning and in woe, cursed spirit, tarry thou. I know thee well, and thus in filth disguised. Then stretched he forth hands to the bark, whereof my teacher sage aware, thrusting him back. Away, down there to the other dogs. Then, with his arms my neck encircling, kissed my cheek, and spake, O soul, justly disdainful. Blessed was she in whom thou wast conceived. He in the world was one for arrogance noted. To his memory no virtue lends its luster, even so here is his shadow furious. There above, how many now hold themselves mighty kings, who here like swine shall wallow in the mire, leaving behind them horrible dispraise. I then, master, him fain would I behold whelmed in these dregs, before we quit the lake. He thus, wherever to thy view the shore be offered, satisfied shall be that wish, which well deserves completion. Scarce his words were ended, when I saw the miry tribe set on him with such violence, that yet for that render I thanks to God, and praise. To Filippo Argenti, cried they all. And on himself the moody Florentine turned his avenging fangs. Him here we left, nor speak I of him more. But on mine ear sudden a sound of lamentation smote, whereat mine eye unbarred I sent abroad. And thus the good instructor. Now, my son draws near the city, that of Dis is named, with its grave denizens, a mighty throng. I thus, the minarets already, sir. There, certes, in the valley I descry, gleaming vermilion, as if they from fire had issued. He replied, Eternal fire, that inward burns, shows them with ruddy flame illumined, as in this nether hell thou seest. We came within the fosses deep, that moat this region comfortless. The walls appeared as they were framed of iron. We had made wide circuit, your place we reached, where loud the mariner cried vehement, Go forth, the entrance is here. Upon the gates I spied more than 1,000, who of all from heaven were showered. With ireful gestures, Who is this, they cried, that, without death first felt, goes through the regions of the dead. My sapient guide made sign that he for secret parley wished, whereat their angry scorn abating, thus they spake, Come thou alone, and let him go, who hath so hardily entered this realm. Alone return he by his witless way, if well he knew it, let him prove. For thee, here shalt thou tarry, hither climb so dark has been his escort. Now bethink thee, reader, what cheer was mine at sound of those cursed words. I did believe I never should return. O my love guide. The more than 7 times security hast rendered me, and drawn from peril deep, whereto I stood exposed. Desert me not, I cried, in this extreme. And, if our onward going be denied, together trace we back our steps with speed. My liege, who thither had conducted me, replied, Fear not, for of our passage none hath power to disappoint us, by such high authority permitted. But do thou expect me here, meanwhile, that wearied spirit comfort and feed with kindly hope, assured I will not leave thee in this lower world. This said, departs the sire benevolent, and quits me. Hesitating I remain at war, twixt will and will not, in my thoughts. I could not hear what terms he offered them, but they conferred not long, for all at once pell-mell rushed back within. Closed were the gates, by those our adversaries, on the breast of my liege lord. Excluded, he returned to me with tardy steps. Upon the ground his eyes were bent, and from his brow raced all confidence, while thus in sighs he spake, Who hath denied me these abodes of woe? Then thus to me, that I am angered, think no ground of terror. In this trial I shall vanquish, use what arts they may within for hindrance. This their insolence, not new, erewhile a gate less secret they displayed, which still is without bolt, upon its arch thou saw'st the deadly scroll. And even now, on this side of its entrance, down the steep, passing the circles, unescorted, comes one whose strong might can open us this land. Canto 9 Argument. After some hindrances, and having seen the hellish furies and other monsters, the poet, by the help of an angel, enters the city of Dis, wherein he discovers that the heretics are punished in tombs burning with intense fire, and he, together with Virgil, passes onward between the sepulchres and the walls of the city. The hue, which cowered dread on my pale cheeks imprinted when I saw my guide turn back, chased that from his which newly they had worn, and inwardly restrained it. He, as one who listens, stood attentive, for his eye not far could lead him through the sable air, and the thick gathering cloud. It yet behoves we win this fight. Thus he began, if not, such aid to us is offered, oh, how long meseems it, ere the promised help arrive. I noted, how the sequel of his words cloaked their beginning, for the last he spake agreed not with the first. But not the less my fear was at his saying, sith I drew to import worse, perchance, than that he held, his mutilated speech. Doth ever any into this fruitful concave's extreme depth descend, out of the first degree, whose pain is deprivation merely of sweet hope? Thus I inquiring. Rarely he replied, it chances, that among us any makes this journey, which I wend. Erewhile, 'tis true, whence came I here beneath, conjured by fellow rich though, sorcerers, who compelled the shades back to their bodies. No long space my flesh was naked of me, when within these walls she made me enter, to draw forth a spirit from out of Judas's circle. Lowest place is that of all, obscurest, and removed farthest from heaven's all-circling orb. The road full well I know, thou therefore rest secure. That lake, the noisome stench exhaling, round the city of grief encompasses, which now we may not enter without rage, yet more he added. But I hold it not in mind, for that mine eye toward the lofty tower had drawn me wholly, to its burning top, where, in an instant, I beheld uprisen at once 3 hellish furies stain it with blood. In limb and motion feminine they seemed, around them greenest hydras twisting rolled their volumes, adders and ceres crept instead of hair, and their fierce temples bound. He, knowing well the miserable hags who tend the queen of Endlesau, thus spake, mark thou each dire Arenas. To the left, this is Megair, on the right hand, she who wails, Alecto, and Tisiphone ith Schmitz. This said, in silence he remained. Their breasts they each one clawing tore, themselves smote with their palms, and such thrill clamor raise, that to the bard I clung, suspicion bound. Hasten Medusa. So adamantum shall we change all looking down exclaimed. And when by Theseus's might assailed, we took no ill revenge. Turn thyself round and keep thy countenance hid, for if the Gorgon dire be shown, and thou shouldst view it, thy return upwards would be forever lost. This said, himself, my gentle master, turned me round, nor trusted he my hands, but with his own, he also hid me. Be of intellect sound and entire, mark well the law concealed under close texture of the mystic string. And now there came o'er the perturbed waves loud crashing, terrible, a sound that made either shore tremble, as if of a wind impetuous, from conflicting vapors sprung, that gainst some forest driving all his might, plucks off the branches, beats them down, and hurls afar, then, onward passing, proudly sweeps his whirlwind rage, while beasts and shepherds fly. Mine eyes he loosed, and spake. And now direct thy visual nerve along that ancient foam, there, thickest where the smilk ascends. As frogs before their foe the serpent, through the wave plies swiftly all, till at the ground each one lies on a heap. More than 1,000 spears destroyed, so saw I fleeing before one who passed with unwet feet the Stygian sound. He, from his face removing the gross air, oft his left hand forth stretched, and seemed alone by that annoyance wearied. I perceived that he was sent from heaven, and to my guide turned me, whose signal made, that I should stand quiet, and bend to him. Ah me, how full of noble anger seemed he! To the gate he came, and with his wand touched it, whereat open without impediment it flew. Outcasts of heaven! O abject race, scorned! Began he, on the horrid grunsel standing, whence doth this wild excess of insolence lodge in you? Wherefore kick you gainst that will ne'er frustrate of its end, and which so oft hath laid on you enforcement of your pangs? What profits it the fates to but the horn? You Cerberus, if you remember, hence bears still, peeled of their hair, his throat and maw. This said, he turned it back o'er the filthy way, and syllable to us spake none, but wore the semblance of a man by other care beset, and keenly pressed, then thought of him who in his presence stands. Then we our steps toward that territory moved, secure after the hallowed words. We, unopposed, there entered, and, my mind eager to learn what state of fortress like to that might hold, I, soon as entered, throw mine eye round, and see, on every part, wide stretching space, replete with bitter pain and torment ill. As where Rome stagnates on the plains of Arles, or as Apollo, near Cornrose Gulf, that closes Italy and laves her bounds, the place is all thick spread with sepulchres, so is it here, save what in horror here excelled. For midst the graves were scattered flames, wherewith intensely all throughout they burned, that iron for no craft their hotter needs. Their lids all hung suspended, and beneath, from them forth issued lamentable moans, such as the sad and tortured well might raise. I thus, Master, say who are these, interred within these vaults, of whom distinct we hear the dolorous sighs. He answered thus returned, The arch-heretics are here, accompanied by every sect their followers, and much more than thou believest. The tombs are freighted. Like with like is buried. And the monuments are different in degrees of heat. This said, he to the right hand turning, on we pass it betwixt the afflicted, and the ramparts high.